Welcome back, drawers. We're going to go over how to properly sharpen your pencil at this point in time. This is a bit of a long lecture. Maybe I'll be able to sort of speed it up a little bit as we sort of go along. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take your pencil, which starts out like this. All right? And here I'm using a Primo 3V. This is one of the pencils that I like to use, but this technique will work with any type of charcoal or Conti type of pencil. Doesn't really work quite as well with graphite, but it can still be done with graphite pencils, certain types of graphite pencils. All right, so, and we're going to take that from this, right, the way it comes at the store, to this. And I'll show you what you can do with that in a minute. All you're going to need is a razor blade. Right? We're going to want this type of razor blade. This is the square razor blade that I put on the syllabus. You can get this at any hardware store. I buy them in packs of 100, or you could get the little tiny pack of like 3 or 5 or something like that. It's important that you get the square one. Right? There are other types of razor blades out there. And if you get the kind that go in a utility knife, they have a bunch of little notches in the back here, and they hurt your thumb when you're trying to push. All right? And then because of that, that'll cause you to not have good form when you're doing that. And if you don't have good form, you're going to end up breaking the pencil tip and wasting your money. All right? So we don't want that. So make sure you have the right razor blade. Some people try to do it with an X-Acto knife in a long stick. That also doesn't work well because that sort of is going to make you want to make this sort of fast, jerky motion that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. You're also going to need a piece of sandpaper, also on the syllabus. At the art supply store, you can buy these little tiny wooden blocks that have several pieces of sandpaper. Those do work. I don't like them because the sandpaper tends to curl up. And it's much cheaper, and because of the type of studio that I operate, I always buy large packages of sandpaper. But this is 100 grit sandpaper. Doesn't really matter if it's 100 or 120 or 150 grit. If you get up to like 200 grit sandpaper, you're not going to be moving enough of the material though. So something that's like 100 grit sandpaper, it'll say on the back right here, 100. That'll work fine. All right, so we're going to put that aside. I'm going to put this over here. The main purpose of what we're doing, and I guess I could kind of draw it out here a little bit, is that when you have a piece of paper that's sitting flat like this, right, you want to be able to lay down your pencil on the side of it like this. Now if you notice when I lay this pencil on this sort of line, or if you can see on the page, right, a large portion of my pencil of my charcoal is actually touching. This one, a very small portion is, and so I can only do this. Right, so that's really what this is all sort of about here, is being able to adjust this, get a little wrinkle in there. Right, so that'll allow us to make nice, sort of large, sort of sweeping motions here. Right, that just aren't really as, you're going to end up with short, quick, sort of, although those don't look so bad though. Right, and then, this is going to be sort of part of this sort of assignment at the end that I'm going to give you. All right, you may be able to, and you can see all these sort of things. So you're going to want to practice sort of thick to thin. And so you can see you can move up on this, right, and make short, quick motions, right, or we can pull back on it and make sort of larger, sort of sweeping motions. All right. So I'll come back to that at the end and show you a few more things. All right, so I'm going to put this one down off to the side here. All right, and then I'm going to take this off, revealing a bucket. All right, this is a little bit of a messy process. In a drawing studio, I don't like seeing little bits of pencil shavings all over the place. So you're going to want to sort of do it over something, a trash can. I'm in my studio, so I just happen to have a lot of buckets, so a bucket works well for me. All right? All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our, I'm right-handed, so this is my left hand, and this is my right hand. All right, so I'm going to put the pencil in my left hand like this, right, putting it down here, and then I'm going to hold it with my thumb, and you can notice how I can rotate it. Right? That's important. Right? When I draw, I'm always rotating the pencil also, and we'll talk more about that as well. So you want to kind of be able to, get into the habit of being able to do this. Right? And then we're going to hold the razor blade, right, with just these two fingers, right, on our right hand. And this hand is going to steer, and this hand, particularly this thumb, is going to drive. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our thumb, right, on the back, kind of in the center here, right, and we're going to push on the razor blade. I don't know if you can hear the dogs barking in the background. There's studio life. So, is all this hand is doing is, you want to avoid doing this. Sometimes people want to do this. Right? This is that jerky motion that I was talking about earlier. Right? If you're doing a jerky motion, you're going to make it more likely that you're going to break the tip. Right? So with this control, you can see, look, if as I sort of push in here like this, I can let go with this hand because the thumb is doing all the driving. I'm just going to go sort of around. Right? And the goal of what I'm trying to do here is I want to remove about 3/4 of an inch. Right? Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. It kind of depends on a little bit on the pencil and a little bit on the person. Right? I want to take off about at least a 1/2 inch, right? But maybe as much as an inch. Right? I use some thicker Conti pencils that the material is a little bit more durable, and on those I take off at least an inch. And on these Primo pencils, I have a tendency to take off about 3/4 of an inch. So you can notice I shaved it all down. I'm rotating around. Right? I've taken off about 3/4 of an inch of wood I've revealed here, but none of the charcoal yet. Right? So I'm going to come back up a little bit higher, and I'm going to do another round here. I'm just kind of going around. I find this process to be very meditative, and it helps me to kind of set the stage for what my drawing is going to be. A lot of times, like we're all in a rush all the time. It's our culture these days, right? We're all in a rush, and so everyone's like rushing around, and you're like, oh, I gotta draw today, and rush in and grab your journal and start drawing. It's like that's not that's not how you get set up for drawing that. I look at this as this is kind of a little bit of mental stretching, right? You're going to go for a run. You should stretch a little bit before, right? Stretch out those muscles a little bit, right? Stretching isn't just good for the body; it's also good for the mind, right? So it slows you down a little bit. Right? Working on this thing. Every once in a while, when you're doing it, the material will break. It happens, right? If the material breaks once, and sometimes it's because I'm not paying attention or whatever, get a little distracted. Right? If it breaks twice, sometimes I think that it might be something that's in the pencil. So it is possible that there could be micro cracks along in the charcoal. So if you bought your pencil from the art store, and maybe the person who was in there before picked up the pencil and was like, oh, I'm going to buy this pencil, and then they dropped it on the floor, and they were like, nah, I'm just going to put it back. And then you come along and you buy that pencil. Right? Now you take it back, you're like, oh, I got this nice pencil that I spent $1 on, and really it's been dropped, and it's all full of little tiny shatters. If they break more than 3 times on me, I usually just throw them away, and it's just a sort of a lost cause. It kind of stinks. But when I buy my pencils, I'm very particular to make sure that that they look like they haven't been handled too much. Right? So now I'm kind of coming back up. Got a visitor coming over. Hannah, are you coming over here? My dog. I'm going to say hi. Don't knock the camera over, dog. All right, so I was saying that, come here. Right, so I was saying that this is Hannah. You will probably see her in a lot of the videos. A lot of times in class, I think that this is a nice time for students to chat, and it's kind of like water cooler talk, right? You sit around, you sharpen your pencils, you kind of get in the zone. Right? I'm going to get ready to draw. All right, so now you can see here, right? I've removed a good amount of material. I've removed about 3/4 of an inch of the material here, a little bit more on the wood. right? And it looks all kind of chunky and clunky, and you're thinking, Eric, you're going to lay that down and get a nice smooth edge? No, no, that's not what we're going to do. Right? So now, at this point, I'm going to bring up my piece of wood here. Right? And if you use a piece of paper, it's really important that you have a nice flat surface. Okay, it could just be a board. It could be a table, but it's going to get messy. This is a sculpture modeling stand that I'm just using here. Right, so I'm going to hold my sandpaper flat, right, and then I'm going to rotate my pencil like this. Right, so what you can't see is that as I'm going, it's rotating around. So you see how you can see the number here. So I'm rotating around. Right? If you don't rotate it, you're going to end up with something that looks kind of like a little bit of the tip just broke off there. You're going to get something that looks kind of like a lipstick. Right? If you know the shape of a lipstick, right? A lipstick, the top comes up, and then it goes something like this, and then it comes down like that. Right? We don't want to draw with that kind of shape. We want to draw with a shape that looks like this, right? That kind of shape. Right? And you see it has a little, I like it when it has a little bit of a round, but that kind of happens naturally when you're drawing. Okay, so now I'm kind of going a little bit faster. I don't go up and down like this. I kind of try to push into it like this, right? And that way I'm not putting any side-to-side pressure on the pencil. So you can see what's starting to happen here is that some parts are picking up the charcoal and some parts are not. All the parts that are picking up the charcoal are all your high points. So you're going to want to go back to the razor blade, and you want to just kind of nick off all of those spots where it's dark. And so basically what that's doing is it's telling you where all of the high points are. Right? Now, in a second here, I'm actually going to take a little bit more off because when I was doing that, a little bit of the tip broke off, so I want to reveal just a little bit more. I'm going to go kind of back in, not too much. Now this technique, you see, I can go back in. If you draw with your pencil, and while you're drawing with your pencil, sometimes a little shading stick, because there's a little bit of residue in there. It's a little bit of a resin binder that they use to hold the pencil together. So a lot of times you get a little bit of a stickiness there. Right? And then I'll take off just a smidgy bit more of this. When you're drawing, what you want to do is you always want to be rotating your pencil. If you're always rotating your pencil while you're drawing, what ends up happening is your pencil will actually just constantly keep sharpening itself. Right? And you won't have to do this much. And then at a certain point, you'll need to go back and you'll just need to bring it down a little bit more. Right? So sometimes you might have to do this 2 or 3 times. And like you can see there, like I said, a little bit of the tip broke off. Right? So you can see all those, there's more of those high points now. Right? So each time you go back and do this, you're probably going to see more of the wood will turn black. And the more of the wood turns black, that means that you're getting flatter and flatter and flatter. This is very similar to a lot of sort of techniques of sanding anything down. Right? So it's sort of going back and sort of forth. Right? And I want to make sure, I like to make sure that I'm kind of in that charcoal area, so I'm rubbing it on the wood. You're not sanding it down the wood. Because all you're doing is sharpening the tip and making sure that you're hitting all the high points. Now look at how much more of the charcoal is on the wood there. So now I'll go right, hit all these spots. And you can see it's almost like, you can see it's a finer motion too. I'm barely just kind of sort of sliding the razor blade along that. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Eric, this is an awful lot of work. I just want to just pick up a pencil and start drawing. I'm telling you, this is absolutely the way to kind of get started and get in the mindset. I'm already getting in the mindset. I'm not even planning on doing this. Is kind of the end of my day right here, and this is the last thing I'm doing today. I'm going to go home, and I'm like thinking, no, I kind of want to stay here at the studio and draw, because now I'm all kind of just like in sort of a mood to draw. That's a really nice looking thing. Look at that. So, yeah, gorgeous. Put this to the side again here. I'm going to put this one over here too. Pick up that drawing pad again. I'm just gonna pull a fresh sheet kind of over here so you can kind of see. Right? And there, look. What a nice thing to draw with, and then you can go. Let's see, make sure you can see. Oop, a little bit of that look there. I'll actually just. So you can go from thick to thin, right? And we'll talk more about this, but sort of last thought here is that when you hold the pencil, there's not, I'll talk more about holding a pencil, but there's not sort of just one way. You want to be able to move sort of up and down on it, just the same way as a baseball player adjusts their bat, their hand position on the bat. And I'll talk more about that. But all right, so there you go. There you have it. Nice sharp drawing pencil ready to go. As a homework assignment, right, what I'm going to ask you to do is to sharpen a pencil like this. I'd recommend sharpening 2 or 3 of them. Usually when I draw, I have 2 or 3 of them at a time for various reasons that I'll explain afterwards. All right. And then, and this will be in the on the e-learning site as well. What I'm going to ask you to do is to fill 3 or 4 pages. Right? Fill 3 or 4 pages with just marks. Right? Practice drawing ellipses. Right? Ellipse, ellipse, ellipse. Try to draw circles. Right? Draw some squares. Practice all kinds of shapes. Right? Just get used to, trying to. So look at the way I'm holding it. Right? Right? There's no real sort of thing. Just fill a couple of pages of newsprint. What did I say? 3 or 4 pages of newsprint with all just kinds of marks. Right? And practice trying this out and getting a handle on how you can do it. And try to be a little bit tighter. Right? This. This. All right. Great. See you on Monday.